My fifth today.
Oh, well, I know we appreciate having you on.
Yeah, well, thanks for asking me.
Can everybody see my screen? All right. We are expecting a few more people, but
Okay, I'll be patient.
we want to be respectful of your time. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, on the agenda, first, I just want us to let everybody know this meeting is being recorded, and we may use some of the excerpts from the recording for various educational opportunities. Please mute your phone except when speaking. We do have a tight agenda, so please keep your comments brief. And we try to use progressive stack. So if you would like to be called on to speak during the Q&A, please type stack in the comments, and we will use a progressive method to determine who to call on, if that makes sense. We want to welcome the members of the Kentucky Alliance Legislative Committee. The Kentucky Alliance is a 501c3. The Coalition for the People's Agenda Education Committee is also, there's a lot of overlap between the two organizations. So we've got a lot of members in both organizations, and the Coalition is a 501c4, of which Dear JCPS serves as the lead sponsor as a 501c4 entity. And then we also have members of ASALA and LSURG on the call. And in fact, Greg, let me just make sure Greg isn't trying to get in. Maybe he is. Let me just send him a link. I sent it out through email, but just sent it to him in Messenger as well. Okay. First, we're going to start just with some introductions. Who we are. I told you about the different organizations that comprise the groups that are coming together for this effort. We're going to do the introductions of the speakers. We're going to introduce, and those are the speakers that I mean that are going to be planning to speak at the July 27th meeting. We're just going to say a quick hello to everybody. Senator Neal, and then Senator Neal is going to give us about a 10-minute prepared presentation with some strategies and messaging that he's prepared. And then depending on how quickly we get through our agenda, we'll have time for a little bit of Q&A with him. And then he's going to hop off at 5:30. We also have guest Corey Queen. Say hello, Corey.
Hello, sorry.
That's okay. He is an Oldham County parent, but also a JCPS graduate. So he's got some experience. He's going to tell us a little bit about that board meeting that we witnessed last month. And then we've got an agenda for what we're going to do on Tuesday and beyond. So those who are interested and able, please stick around for the discussion afterwards. So let me just start with a little who we are. And Greg, did you get a chance to send the email to the other names that you told me? I have not had a chance today. I'm sorry. Did you get a chance to invite the others that you wanted?
I just did. Okay. Yeah, I just did. Thanks.
So we'll do a quick intro, and then hopefully they get a chance to join us. The Kentucky Alliance, as you probably know, was founded in 1974 by Ann Braden, Angela Davis, Bob Cunningham, and Susie Post to address systemic racism and injustice prevalent in our society. The Kentucky Alliance is one of the longest running grassroots organizations serving Jefferson County and Kentucky. Our volunteer-run organization operates out of the historical Carl Braden Memorial Center at 3208 West Broadway. And our current chairs, co-chairs are Tyra Walker, she's a JCPS teacher and JCTA officer, Shamika Parrish Wright, who is the Bell Project, a JCPS parent, and now also a candidate for Louisville mayor, and Dre Dawson, a Revolutionary Black Panther Party leader. And the Kentucky Alliance is the home of the Coalition for the People's Agenda. Back in 2002, it was formed due to the city-county merger, the imbalance of power that was anticipated through the city-county merger. And they are behind the formation of the very first civilian review board many, many years ago. We have different layers, as I mentioned, 501c3s and 501c4s, depending on what our message and our strategies are. And we even have a federal PAC that we can work with if we need to do some things at the federal level. So just a real quick introduction. Those who are signed up to speak at the JCPS board meeting on July 27th, would you mind just raising your hand and telling us your name and a little bit about you if you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself to the group, especially. And if you happen to know what speaker number, go ahead and mention that as well. Anybody want to go first?
Hi, this is Monica Unseld. Would we have known our speaker number yet?
So what I have suggested is that you contact Angie Gilpin, the person that you signed up when you signed up to speak, and she'll tell you how many people sign up in front of you, have signed up in front of you. So then if there are 3 signed up in front of you, then that makes you the 4th speaker. And that is on non-agenda items. If there are people who sign up to speak on agenda items, they will get bumped to the first, to the front. But at least these orders, the numbers help us determine the order. So we know, okay, well, Greg's going before Yvonne. And so, you know, Yvonne can reference something that Greg mentioned without having to spend her 3 minutes on the same topic that he's already covered. So it's really about flow that we're wanting to know your number. But they do it based on when you call in. So I know Tyra was first to call in. So she's first. I was second. I know I'm second. Does anyone else want to go ahead and just say, if you did sign up to speak, let us know that you're planning to speak. Yvonne, would you introduce yourself, please?
I should have a t-shirt that says unmute, please. I'm Yvonne Rivera. I'm a teacher in JCPS and I like to make trouble if I can. And I sent an email asking Angie where I was in the thing and then forgot to check it.
Okay.
So I need to do that.
All right. Anyone else signed up to speak? Greg, did you sign up to speak?
Yeah, I am signed up to speak. Greg Titchener, ECE teacher with JCPS, and I have some follow-up to do with Angie as well. I don't know what my speaker number is.
Okay. KA, are you planning on speaking? All right. I don't know if he can hear me. He's got his headphones on. There he is.
I hear you. I hear you. I haven't signed up as of yet. I mean, if necessary, but I might not be needed.
When I called Angie last week, there were 19 people signed up. So Tyra, I see you're on now. Do you want to say something? I know you're signed up.
Yes, I did sign up to speak. Say that
I think-
again. Uh-oh,
I think you're
what
first.
happened?
I think you're number 1, right?
Yeah, I'm just reading the statement from the Kentucky Alliance. I didn't realize I was first. I guess I should have realized I was first. But yeah, so because I called it saying that that day when they said, well, when she called me back and said they were taking speakers, I signed up then.
Absolutely.
So yes, I was just going to read the statement from the Kentucky Alliance if that's okay with everybody.
All right. We're just doing introductions right now. So anyone else that is signed up to speak, I think we've covered everybody that's on this call anyway. Joni, hi. Do you want to introduce yourself and just say hello? Glad you're here.
Joni Prentice. I call myself a legislative nerd. Senator Neal knows me. I contact the legislature frequently on lots of issues. So really anxious to hear this discussion.
Awesome. And Corey, would you please tell us just a little bit about who you are? And we're going to ask you to stick around and talk to us some more after Senator Neal drops off, if that's okay.
Sure. I'm Corey Queen. I just met you earlier today. I am JCPS graduate. My family and I now live in Oldham County, and I did speak at the Oldham County Board of Education meeting a few weeks ago, and it got, in case you guys missed it, it did get, I'll just say interesting at the chance of being polite. It was a circus show at best.
Too interesting, huh?
Yes, and I do encourage. I don't like to tell people what to do because we're all adults. I do encourage people to speak their voice. My personal experience at the Oldham County Board meeting was that there were 25 names that spoke. I happened to be first, but But as anyone that saw in the meeting, everyone was very vocal in a very mob mentality. And everyone wanted to bully people that spoke.
Yes.
And that's what everyone relied upon, was being a bully. And they wanted to yell and they wanted to intimidate those that spoke. And for whatever insane reason, when I was done speaking, which I'm still not sure why people clapped for me, which I really don't think people heard what I had to say, which was sort of funny to me because when they clapped, I was very confused why they clapped. But that's a whole different story.
Yes, I noticed that as well and found it incredibly fascinating, which is actually part of the strategy we're going to talk about today. I'm sorry, I didn't have my screen fully expanded. I'm still figuring out how to get everybody on at the same on my view at the same time. Michael T, I see you're on the call and I think you are signed up to speak as well. It looks like your audio is trying to connect though, so we may not be able to hear you. And if that's okay, we're going to jump ahead now to Senator Neal and ask for him to enlighten our speakers and the rest of us with some good information about what's going on and what you think is a good strategy and message and tactic that we can learn from.
I'm on.
You're on.
First of all, hello, everybody. And let me say that what I may say may seem redundant to you, because I'm sure you're focused in on this issue, and I don't know to what extent you have focused in on this. So as I thought about it, Gay, I began to think, I said, look, these are very intentional people here. So this is not like I'm going to bring something that's going to enhance your understanding of this piece. So I think what I really need to do is give perspective as I see it, and you can take from it what you think is useful or not. Let me say that we all know that this is an organized, orchestrated piece from across the United States. Part of it is it comes out of the right-wing organizations, or people who are affiliated with these right-wing organizations, and it's very intentional. And these so-called parents, so forth, that come and do those things that Mr. Queen referred to, they're very intentional and they're organized, and a lot of them don't even know what the hell they're talking about. And if you ask them a direct question about any of it, you know, they're just going to la la land, and that's what it's about: confusion, protest, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, clearly what they're doing is speaking to their own base. This has nothing to do with people to look at them and say, who are these crazy people? This is them talking to their base, and those that are on the fringe of their base in order to disrupt is connected to the other issues that they put out there that are crazy, including anti-vax and all that other stuff. There's all kinds of folks that make up this piece that's out there. So it's important to understand that this is a kabuki dance on their part, and there's nothing serious about it, except they are very strategic and very tactic. They use tactics that only has to project one thing, and that is CRT is bad and we won't stand for it, and we're going to stop this evil thing. That's all they have to do. That's a simple message. So they can say anything, doesn't make any difference. And we learned that from dealing with Trump and these, you know, these crazy people now, these people that's putting all this stuff out here that in my lifetime, I'm sitting back and would laugh, except it's dangerous because it disrupts the ability to focus on issues that are relevant. So not long ago, we had a hearing before the Education Committee, and the song and dance came to the Education Committee. I have to say it was enabled, obviously, by the chairman of that committee, as well as, I don't know the depths of the involvement of the Senate side yet, but there are two bills out there that I'm sure you're aware of. One focused on K-12 and the other one on K-12 and post-secondary. So this one that came in the discussion was the one that had both pieces. So I just want to share a couple of things. One on the post-secondary, and let's get that out of the way. The post-secondary piece is a very difficult piece for them. is a very difficult piece for them, because to do the things they're asking for as it relates to post-secondary actually threatens accreditation, which is an outside assessment piece that threatens the foundation of post-secondary education throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So that's going to be more of a difficult piece for them to get into. Plus, you're talking about individuals that by definition, they're engaged in this process of discourse and examination and exploration and dialogue and all this sort of stuff. So that one's kind of an easy one to deal with, okay? So what they're doing is they're really gonna make this piece about K-12, because then what can they do? They can tactically they can get a forum through these board of educations around here and there, and they can voice their piece, and they don't have to make any sense. They can just express fear. But the fact of the matter is, and this thing is being motivated on several levels. One is the problem white folks have about Black folks raising the issue about race. This is very real. It is an extension of racism. It is a reaction to racism. It's very uncomfortable for folks. And the fact of the matter is that we all are acculturated and socialized to this piece to react. It's just like you go to church, that preacher hits one little thing and everybody, they all in. He doesn't have to say anything important, but once he gets to that point, everybody's liberated spiritually and emotionally and so forth. And I don't mean that to be derisive in any way, but you know that to be a fact. There's certain things you push a button and people react to because they identify with them emotionally and psychologically. So that's the kind of game that they play now. So the first thing I say is they play in their base. The second thing I'm saying is K through 12, it doesn't matter what they say. The only thing they have to do is hit those 2 or 3 buttons that I've indicated, and they've achieved their objective. So the question in dealing with them, particularly in the public forum, is how do you box that piece in? It's almost like you got to be present, not to give them a full reign. Also, you can't be who they are, in my estimation. So when they come with the ignorance, I like the way you present yourself, Mr. Queen, because the fact of the matter is thinking people and the other people out there can distinguish who you are from that. The second thing is that I love this, and I hope I don't offend anybody. The organizational piece is very important, but I think it's more impactful when parents get up and say, this is not, I don't want my kids to grow up ignorant. I want them to engage into such and such, and just say just common sense kinds of things, because they have a vested interest in it. Some of these other people may or may not have a vested interest. That's beside the point. But when you come before a board of education, establishing that as opposed to just being an organization, and I don't say this I hope no one gets offended by my comment, I'm talking strategic and tactics, that those are more powerful than an organization expressing what they're expressing. However, organizations are important in this as well because they can frame the piece and make sure they create the context by which the board will have to respond. So being intentional in that regard. So I'm not going to assume that you look at it this way, the way I'm saying it. Perhaps some of you do, but here's where I would approach this thing. How many speakers you got? Let's say 10, whatever. I would make sure if you could go in there and you could have 2 or 3 people that can, if I don't know the process and procedure, JCPS, I know you got to sign up, but if you can put 2 or 3 at the end, I think that's tactically important to have that last word. I think in the middle, it's important to have that last word. I just heard 2 or 3 people already sign up there on the front end. They can set the tone. And so then the question becomes messaging. What are you trying to say? If everybody's saying the same thing, that has a benefit. You reinforce certain issues and set pieces that you have. But here's what I think has to be established. I think on the front end, boy, if you had a couple of parents on the front end, I think that sets the tone about they don't want their child to be ignorant. And they want them to be able to handle information that's true and factual and so forth. And you also don't, what you really don't want in the second speaker or the first one is that you want your children to see adults acting as adults and engaging in conversations even when they disagree. In other words, you want to separate yourself from the craziness that these people, that Mr. Queen ran into, etc. People out here are watching this. So you want to stylistically separate yourself and set them up, co-opt their position. Come on wild if you want to. Then every time your folks come in there, they're very calm and they're not accusatory and they're not painting them wrong. What they're talking about, we don't want our children to be ignorant. You got people out here who wants to dumb down our stuff. We don't want our children to not understand and accept lies. You know, by projection, you are really pointing to those other people, you see, but you didn't say those other people. So what I'm saying is, if you consistently do this piece, if you place yourself along the line, if you maintain the calmness and the fury that's around you, and if you show that, you know, adults must act, you know, you put in there, well, adults must act like adults. We don't want to have our children seeing adults acting like they're wild or you know, going crazy out here. That's not a good example for our children. Then that becomes an issue for them in the context of public education, et cetera. Then there's a question of the teachers and that piece. Here's the deal. Teachers, as you know, they are trained to do this. They deal with the age appropriate stuff and all the other stuff. But no, let me back up a little bit. First of all, this stuff ain't being taught nowhere in the school system anyway. So someone's got to say, you know, these organized people, you know, I don't know where they're coming from, but they got some other agenda, but it ain't about our children. Okay, and then you go on to your stuff. So, but the point is that the fact of the matter is that what they're talking about is a non-issue in Jefferson County Public School. They're creating an issue for other purposes. Somebody's got to say that, okay? Then the second thing is that our teachers and our school system have trained professionals. They spend their lives training for these things, and they know how to do age appropriate stuff, blah, 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 blah. Whatever that is. Then the third point I think you want to make is that we have systems and processes for folks to deal with individual circumstances that they object to in terms of their own children, so it can be dealt with professionally and appropriately, as opposed to a mob coming to a school board and sharing nothing but their angst and nothing that encourages dialogue and discussion. So we reject this wild stuff. Somebody can say that. Okay, we reject this wild stuff, this animal kind of reaction stuff. You know, we want our children to be able to discuss issues, tough issues, and et cetera, and it has nothing to do with the issue that they're raising here. In other words, what we really want to do is we want to know, and we cannot separate ourselves from our history. And the fact of the matter is that history has been suppressed historically, and this is another attempt to suppress the truth of our history. That point must come out. And here's the other point, that if you are suppressing the truth of our history, then we are not preparing our children to meet and challenge and participate in a diverse world. It is a world that is not singularly about what just white folks want with respect to that. It's not about this other stuff. And then next one, I hope somebody's taking this down. But the other thing is this. It says these children are already being taught. And guess where they're being taught? They're being taught in social media. I want my children to be in a situation of trained professionals that can supervise the discussion, make sure that value comes out of that exchange, instead of them accepting these conspiracy theorists and these people that's putting all kinds of information out there that cannot be validated and so forth. So anybody that thinks we ought to allow our children to not be taught by our educators and be taught by the internet is not about the benefit of our children. They're not talking about our children. They're talking about the problem that they really have, and that's an adult problem, and it's not a child's problem. Now, I've sort of laid out a scenario here. I trust that each and every one of you know exactly what I'm talking about. I know this has to have gone through your head, each and every one of you. What I'm advocating is that you sort those out, even though I know you got a time issue here in terms of this, but get those pieces there. Maintain your peace, differentiate yourself from the mob, and make sure those things are done. It will be seen, it will be appreciated, and make sure that they understand, well, this is just a mob of people that have organized themselves for other reasons. You don't have to even explain why. You don't have to get into that. You don't have to be defensive about anything. We love our children. We don't want our children to be dumb. We want our children, and there's one last point. We should not underestimate the power of youth and this hunger for information, which enables us to be bigger and better. Our children are demonstrating themselves, are presenting themselves in ways that are way above some of these people that are coming in this room. Somebody did not teach these folks. So we understand that this behavior is unacceptable. When you're disrespectful to someone, we know this. This is very fundamental in the school system, that's unacceptable. Well, guess what? It's unacceptable for our children. It's also unacceptable for adults. So when people present themselves their way, then they need some training. I wish the Jefferson County Public School had a program for people like that, because maybe they can be saved from dumbing down our children and blah, blah, blah. So you see where I'm coming from on this? So I'm gonna shut up right there, answer any question that you may have for me. I will leave, no, one last thing. I have a long-term deal that I'm dealing with. I'm gonna tell you straight up. When the representatives presented this thing in front of the committee, what I did was I showed them respect. They had a guy come there. They bought some black faces there to they were being strategic, they thought, okay. I don't know what they was trying to do. I don't think they made any, they didn't advance anything by doing that, because these were ideologues. So you got to understand, these were ideologues. So they had all kinds of things that they wanted to express, all kinds of grievances that leaked out in this thing. They conflated all kinds of issues. But here's the deal. What they've done is said, here is CRT, and then they put race, and then they put our kids being made uncomfortable, and then they conflated history and race with uncomfortable. You see what they just did? So if you talk about that, then you have lost, because once someone puts the first premise on the table and you react to it, they got you. That's it. If I say yes, only thing you got to say is no, and you're equal. That's the best case scenario. So what I'm saying is this is not about CRT. So don't get into a counterpoint with them on CRT. This is about our children and the attack on the ability to dumb down our children because someone has another kind of grievance and they're using this as a hammer at the expense of our children. That that puts them in the context of what they are. This lastly, I'm gonna go back to these people that I'm talking to. I respect the people that come in. I understand that. I use tactics. I'm strategic myself. I understand that. Sometimes ideology is useful in its place, but at the expense of our children, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. We don't use these tools to hurt children. You see, you hear what I just said? But when I deal with these people that have bought this before me, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I've asked them after the committee, I went up to them. In fact, I said it during the course of it. I said, well, I'd like for us to continue this discussion. I said, in fact, because I don't understand what you're talking about. And I didn't. Well, I did, but I didn't. What they were putting there down didn't make sense anyway. Any person logically listened to them would have said, what you talking about? So I said, so I want to give them a chance to express themselves. I'm clear on this. So if you don't want to understand where I'm coming from, understand that I taught out of a book in 1989 at the University of Louisville as an adjunct professor. The book was called Race, Racism, and American Law. The author of that book was Derek Bell. Professor Derek Bell is the guy, along with a couple others, that they identified retrospectively and retroactively as the father, so to speak, of CRT. But I'm here to tell you, I went to these people and I said, have you heard of that book? Oh yeah, I've heard of the book. I said, have you read the book? They said, no, I haven't read it. But I said, well, I've read it from cover to cover. And I think there's something you can learn from it. And I do believe that. So I'm going to set them down. I'm going to take my little book. I went and found it in my library. I'm going to take my book and I'm going to give them an education. Now, if they don't understand what I'm talking about when I come out of that, then that's going to become a public discussion. If they do understand and they come with sincerity, I'm gonna be respectful, and I'm gonna tell them exactly what I'm telling you now. What I'm telling you now, I don't care who knows. You can use this anywhere you want to, because what I say behind closed doors is the same thing I say in public, because I have nothing to hide and transparency is the name of the game. But I do resent adults using their issues, their ideological and emotional and psychological deficiencies or aspirations at the expense of our children. That is unacceptable. And that's what this is about. I'm done.
Agree.
I'll
100%.
answer any questions if I'm allowed allotted that
Thank you.
opportunity.
You are definitely allotted that opportunity as long as you can stay and answer questions as long as you're willing and able.
I
see
have
that,
7 minutes.
all right, I see that Corey has put something, he put something in stack. So Corey, you go first.
Thank you, Senator Stack. Most importantly, Senator Stack. Senator Neal, I put Stack in the chat. Sorry. I just have a quick question. And I said this when I spoke at the Oldham County question. I'm someone, I live in Oldham County now. I grew up in Newburgh, went to Price Elementary, went to the Brown School, graduated St. X. I've experienced all of Jefferson County. I just have a question. For all this work and effort in the past few years that has gone into CRT, that has gone into this notoriety, that has gone into, like you have said, everyone that has tried to bully this information about race, and everyone that has made this far beyond the importance of what should be about our children, why hasn't the effort gone into about the representation of who is actually teaching our children? Why hasn't this gone into, which is what I said into the board meeting of Oldham County, is why are we putting the effort into who is teaching our children, is preparing our children, like you said, into getting them into the future, into the people that they're going to experience in the job force, in the workforce, into the next level of education. We're not preparing them for that. We're failing them in that sense, because their experiences, once I picked up my children into they go to enrichment camp, and I saw 2 little boys with Confederate flag shirts talking about proud to be a country boy shirt. Last time I checked, school is a government entity because they get government funds, which the Confederate flag is supposed to be outlawed into that building. But there's no one there that looks like me to enforce the rule of the Confederate flag not being there. So what I'm not understanding is, instead of the yaya distraction from the politicizing of CRT going on, we're ignoring the hurt that's actually going on in our children. So how do we right the ship into actually taking care of our children and getting the people in places to actually educate our kids?
Well, the fact of the matter is that you have people in places educating our kids, but it's uneven in terms of, because in the different places in Kentucky, it's a reflection of the culture that's produced the people who set the policies that do these things. So what happens in Jefferson County, and the nature of a school system that's large as Jefferson County, is not the same thing that you're going to find in some school, perhaps in Eastern Kentucky, or even in Western Kentucky. So there is no uniform way to do that, other than, in my view, other than the fact to emphasize and focus on the professionalism and of our educators, and the need for us to support them, knowing that there is no perfection, but knowing that they have dedicated their lives. You got to uplift the educators. You really have to do that. And if you get into these little sidebars about what's deficient in the system, that feeds into what they're trying to do, because that's one of those kinds of issues. Anything that takes away, they want it, So in the context of this, I would say you wouldn't want to go there. I think I would uplift our educators, they train, blah, 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 blah. Now, as it relates to, your question was bigger than that. Your question was, okay, how do we really get this thing focused properly so it becomes beneficial to our children? That's the way I summarize what you just said. And I think it's through engagement. Engagement, you know, accountability is associated with, and I tell people all this all the time, positive, constructive engagement. You don't have to go and take a stick and beat somebody over the head because you disagree with them, even because they're doing wrong. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes tactically, strategically, you want to take a stick and beat somebody over the head ideologically, you know, with respect to that. There is some benefit. But what I'm saying is this: when you want to engage and get accountability in the situation, then what you have to do is you have to be big and purposeful and directional in what you do. And you have to be persistent, because people have their own agendas, they have their own experiences. But I'm gonna tell you, it's hard to beat a sincere person that's transparent, that's focused, that joins others, not trying to convince those that disagree, but joins others that understand. You begin to coalesce, you become present, you become engaging, you become purposeful, and you continue it. If you stop, let's say you're successful in this and you stop, what will happen is the next generation of fools will take your place. Or as my daddy used to tell me, if you leave a vacuum, somebody's going to occupy it. You better get in it if it's something to protect. Otherwise, somebody else will get in it. So what I'm saying is, this is not a one-shot deal. This is like wrapping your arms around something. This is not like, here's a battle here and a battle. That's what organizations do, and God bless them for that. But when you get into education in particular, you got to wrap your arms around this stuff, and you got to be present. You got to be in there, and you got to be constructive. You got to be helpful. You got to be knowledgeable. You got to be engaging. And it's a sustained thing that you have to do. Now, I know that's probably not the answer you was looking for, but I want to tell you something. This is a continuum. And if you think back historically, think about all the little hurdles that have had to be challenged. And then think about all the hurdles that are currently here, this one included, and think about all the hurdles that you're going to have going forward in the future. See, so I would stick with those things: engage, get with people that are of like mind, find a constructive and positive way to engage, and sort of drown out those voices of discontent that have adult problems, I would say. I don't know if that helps, but that's the tone of what I would do.
It does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions for Senator Neal? I have a couple that I prepared earlier that are on a slide that I'd like to share with him before he hops off. But I don't want to cut in front if anybody has anything. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to share my slide. If you're still having, if somebody else still has something and wants to interrupt me, feel free. Can everybody see my screen again?
I can see it.
You mentioned, I'm going to skip to number 3 for a second. You mentioned that you had offered a sit-down discussion with the bill sponsors in a better format, and we would love to offer to moderate that discussion on in some format in the future, if you would be willing.
Say it again, Gay. I lost that somewhere. Go ahead. Say it again, please.
Bill sponsors, when it's time to have a better format to sit down and discuss, we would love to offer our services and help moderate that forum in a public space when the time is right.
Well, first of all, let me say this. The answer is yes. Let me say this, though. We need to have about 50 public forums.
Yes, we do.
And they need to come from all kinds of angles. You follow me? Yes. And we should encourage all the organizations to have a public forum. And you don't want to have everybody at the same public forum saying the same thing. We want to spread this piece out, and we want to make sure that we occupy those vacuums, those spaces that these other people would occupy if we do not do that. So it's very important. I see you got something up here, letter of support and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. If you're going to send letters of support, if I can go further, you got to do this in a tactical and sustained way. We got a legislative session coming up. If you do it while we have the legislative session, it will mean almost nothing. You got to do this work well in advance. So you're now in July, you're almost late. In fact, you're a little late. The process of dealing with the legislature is not just showing up and talking to people while we're in session. It's the work you do ahead of time that becomes key. Right. So what does that mean? That means you got to really understand who's pushing buttons on these issues. You got to go into their place where they are, and you got to stir up the people around them where they are to challenge them or to engage them at that level. And you got to create a network of people that's going to do it. Then you got to have a tactical, sustained way of engaging it. So I'll stop right there. You know where I'm coming from. This
Yes.
is major stuff, and you got to organize, you got to sustain it.
Yes, and question number one was more along the lines of, do you think we could get Republic, like we already have a draft of a letter of support that we're sending out to organizations and individuals. And we've got the board meeting coming up on Tuesday, but we feel like the board members are pretty much aligned with us for the most part. So our push is not to put that in front of them, but more to put the pressure on the lawmakers to then sign on. So do you think that we could get some Republican lawmakers to sign the letter of support saying that they are opposed to these bills, or what's the tactical way to go about pressuring lawmakers to sign on?
Well, first of all, I started off saying that some of these things that they're doing, they're not really talking to you when they do these things. They're talking to their base. They're ginning up their base.
Right.
Well, some of these lawmakers, that's their base. That's a significant part of their base. They're reflecting that. So there's no amount of pressure you can put on them that doesn't benefit them. You hear what I just said? So you got to really understand who's who in this process. And that's why you have to engage. So what I would suggest is this, is to confront lawmakers individually, not in a negative way, but to ask them specifically, where are they on this issue? What is it they understand about this issue? You have a concern about this issue. You want them to help stop these people trying to make our children stupid. You know, I would approach it that way at this point in time. And I would let them know that you're present. But I also would, again, I would go into places where they rely on their own constituency, because there's also a counter position as well. And they're not going to listen to Louisville. Paducah's not going to listen to Louisville, but Paducah will listen to Paducah, if you know what I'm saying. You see?
Right.
So you got to be tactical that way.
All right, well, I know that you have spent more time with us than you had budgeted, so if I know we've got a couple of people that joined that did not get a chance to say hello to you or introduce, cut them off. I'm sorry about that. Does anyone else want to say anything before he hops off? All right, Senator.
Let me say this before you kick me off of here, okay?
Say as long as you like.
Let me say this to you.
Okay.
And I hope this is taken the right way. What I've learned in life is nothing's worth doing it unless you can do it with joy. You know, when you see anger on my face, believe me, that's tactical stuff. You know, when I engage folks, I enjoy them with joy, you know, because I have the opportunity to try to make a difference. And I know that's what motivates you. Why I'm saying this is that sometimes when you're in a struggle, you begin to internalize it. You either feel weak and you can't do anything about it, or you feel that that's the enemy on the other side. Well, guess what? The thing that enables you to sustain yourself is really related to you, not them. And the question is, how do you feel when you come out of the battle? These people will break your spirit if you really think about what they're doing and how ignorant some of this stuff is. So you genuinely have to understand that you're trying to transform the playing field. So you got to be sincere about that, in my opinion. So take that for whatever it is. Maybe that's Pollyanna in the sky, but I got to tell you, that's what sustains me. That's what keeps me up. That's why I don't have to look over my shoulder. And that's why when someone comes to me with their fist balled up, I assure you, if their fist is balled up and I feel threatened and I'm in a position, I'm gonna knock them out. But on the other hand, why just go knock them out because I can, you know? Why not move this thing further? Why not be strategic and tactical? Why not listen to what they're saying and understand where they are and encourage them to listen? You see, I think that at the end of the day is going to be the thing that saves us from point to point moving forward. I'm gonna leave it like that. Joy.
Thank you, Senator, for joining us. Thank you so much. I'm going to move on to the next slide.
Do I leave now?
You can, or you can, you're welcome to stick around. We're not kicking you
I'm
out.
gonna leave because I got an engagement and I gotta do it. Thank you so much, everyone, for allowing me to participate and talk all this talk. I look forward to engaging with you in the future, and please respond if I call, because I will not do it in an empty way. God bless you all. Stay in the
Thank
struggle.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I apologize. I skipped over a couple of people. My screen was not expanded all the way, and I see some people joined later, and also I had a column that I was overlooking. Monica, Chanda, and Tia, I have skipped over earlier. Would you guys like to take a minute and just say hello and introduce yourself to the rest of the group?
Hi, Monica. Hold on. My dogs are in a fighty mood today, so I'm keeping my camera off. Monica Unseld, Louisville resident, founder Until Justice Data Partners.
Awesome. Tia, can you?
Yeah, I'm Tia Edison. I'm kind of driving, but I am an educator and been with the Kentucky Alliance for 20 years. So I'm a social justice activist. So yeah, that's me.
And Chanda.
Hi, I'm Chanda. I'm a teacher. I teach history. I teach a bunch of this stuff. So if it ends up being illegal, I'll be in trouble. I volunteered with different things, a bunch of different stuff. And I don't know, I'm just, let me know what you need and I'll do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Chanda is also, I believe, the teacher or one of the teachers, maybe the teacher that is working on the curriculum that had critical race theory in it, and then suddenly it was missing. Do you want to tell the group a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, so I've been watching all this and I'm pretty vocal and pretty active. I know Yvonne has probably seen some of it, but so everybody kept saying like, we don't teach critical race theory. We don't teach critical race theory. And I'm like, well, we don't, but it is in our curriculum because I teach the developing Black historical consciousness class at Atherton. And of course that's because, you know, our JCPS is pretty systemically racist, I think, and a white woman teaching that class because like Atherton has 80 something teachers and we have one Black teacher who teaches English. So anyway, that being what it is, I kept thinking like, well, we don't like it, like critical race theory isn't like literally like in the, we don't teach it, but it's like it's one of the five kind of, it was one of the five kind of like organizing principles of the class. So everybody keeps going around saying like, we don't teach it, we don't teach it. And I'm thinking like, well, you may want to be careful like what you're throwing out there. But of course I wasn't going to say that, right? And like throw gasoline on a fire. But I was just like, all right. And then I was like helping, I wasn't actually writing like stuff for that class and stuff, but I was helping write some world history curriculum. And so, and then I went to look and like, it was, you know, I was just doing some other stuff, like getting lesson plans and doing some stuff, you know, for stuff for next summer or for this school year, because I'm one of those people who like, I shouldn't be doing stuff over the summer, but I was anyway. So I looked and it was, you know, just the normal stuff I used last year. And then I went and I looked and it wasn't there. And I was like, okay. And then of course the hearing came up. And so then I saw the article and Olivia Cross, I don't know how to say her last name, her thread, you know, where the article was posted that the Courier Journal said about like it was quietly removed. And so then I'm like, oh, well, it's not there anymore. And of course that curriculum is based on this really amazing guy from the University of Missouri's who's actually going to be working with JCPS this year, his a professor of Black history there that helped write it. So it was taken out and I was like, oh, okay, well, it's gone. So anyway, that's Ryan knows a lot more about that than I do. And I'm sure he would come and maybe speak to us, or I don't know if he would or not. I shouldn't speak for him, but I can find out more about that if y'all want to know.
All right, well, I just
Okay, sorry, I have to hop off here, but I just wanted to uplift again the Libero Trafficante movement. So the CRT stuff, Libero Trafficante movement was over a decade ago. Arizona they tried to ban Mexican American studies. Mitch McConnell was very instrumental in that. Some schools even took it as far as to have the students of color remove the books from the shelves to add the trauma. So just, I wanted to place that in historical context, that this is something they've been trying and building to do for years. And I apologize that I have to step away, but thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And I will add that to our talking points here. Thank you. For Tuesday night, does everyone on the call that's speaking Tuesday have a sense of what their topic is going to be? And do they want to work with other speakers to work on flow or efficiencies or anything like that? Have you guys already started working on some of those things? Or do you need any support today?
I guess I need to redo mine. Well, I still want to read the Kentucky Alliance statement, but I guess if I have time, I can speak as a parent and as be the voice for my kids who want to know the truth and they don't want it sugar coated and just learn about people who don't look like them. So I just have to redo mine. If Tia wants to help me with that. Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else?
I had some talking points that the surge group kind of brought up that kind of were reflected in Senator Neal's that I'm happy to put in chat. I don't know if that'll help make the messages more cohesive, but I think just not even mentioning CRT, because that takes it to the other side's argument I like that one. Yeah, preparing children for a diverse world and attacks on racial justice hurts all students. Yeah, and I got some more talking points from Senator Neal too. So I may reach out to you, Tyra, or Tia, or Yvonne, and once I get mine put together and see what kind of feedback I get, if that's okay.
That's fine.
I'm just adding another.
Tia's giving a thumbs up. Tia gave a thumbs up.
Okay. All right. Oh, Corey, I want to just jump back to you and ask you just to tell us a little bit. You mentioned it a little bit in your intro when you were speaking in Oldham County. One of the things that I thought was humorous was that the people who came in opposition to, turns out they were even opposed to kindness being taught in school. That was one of the code words that they thought was being used to describe CRT. No, we're actually just trying to teach kindness. We're trying to teach empathy and compassion. Is that so hard? But, you know, I thought it was interesting that the people cheered you at the end because they heard what they wanted to hear as opposed to what you were actually saying.
Yeah, okay, I did unmute myself. Sorry, I actually had to double check that. There were a couple of friends that were there and I was very confused if we're going to be really honest and transparent about that, when I heard the applause when I was done speaking. Because I kind of, I had a little bit of an attitude when I walked up, and I'll give a little background. When they had said they put the paper down and I walked up to put my name and I saw I was first, and I do not have a problem with public speaking. I've been one of those people that's never fazed me to speak extemporaneously at all. And as I walked past a table full of people, I heard them whisper. I don't know why they thought I couldn't hear them, because I'm an adult and I can hear. And I saw the room get very tense, and I saw, I don't have x-ray vision, but I could see quite a number of people's colons get very tense when I walked in the room, being, other than the person that was there from the media, the only person of color in the room. And I know I changed a couple of people's speeches when I walked in that room. And they got very, very tense. And so I was aware that but I don't, it doesn't faze me. It doesn't bother me. And so I purposely I sat down in the back of the room because I wanted to see, I wanted to be able to survey what was going on. And I was actually making notes on my iPad because if there's any, I don't pretend to know everything. And I think the people that you're about to encounter do. And if there's any advice that I could, and I was telling you this, to give a little background, I'm a COVID long hauler, and I have like 2 days worth of medical procedures I'm dealing with Monday and Tuesday. Otherwise, I wish I would be there Tuesday, and we have a board meeting in Oldham County on Monday, and I have to miss both of them. And I wish I could be there with you guys. But there's just some notes I would love to pass along to you guys to prepare for. These group of people that you guys are encountering, they have made this their job to go Board of Education meeting to Board of Education meeting from county to county. The people you saw, for anyone that can go on YouTube to watch the Oldham County Board of Education meeting, these are the same people you're going to see at this JCPS meeting. They were there the next day. I would have to forgive me for memory. I think Henry County or Trumbull County had a meeting the next day after the Oldham County meeting. These are the same people that were there. These people have made it a job to go to every county to just bully, to just yell, to just make a ridiculous point of insanity. I sat there, for anyone that didn't watch this, I sat there and listened to a woman discuss this one. This is being recorded, so I'm really going to choose my words carefully to discuss this one example of racism that she experienced. I believe it was, someone's going to have to correct me on this date, like 1945, on a school bus. Yeah. What you all don't know is, I gotta take the bass out of my voice. What you all don't know is she stopped me on the way out to ask me for a hug for a photo op. Yeah, see, there's other crap, you guys. There was a whole nother thing. And I'm not dumb. I saw this, and I let it, and I was like, okay, cool. She stopped to ask me for a hug for peace. And these are all the people, because this is a big thing in Oldham County, that we have these Be Kind yard signs. And these are all the people that have their flags and their Be Kind signs in the front yard. So something that Senator Neal said is, I would try to, as much as you can, sprinkle yourselves in, as far as don't everybody be first, and don't everybody be last, and don't everybody be in the middle, so you get your voices heard. Something else that because it's, and I don't use this term lightly, and I'm very sincere and specific when I say this lynch mob mentality that they get into, be very clear that you're speaking to the board, not the galley. Don't get caught in the turning behind and start looking at everybody behind you as they get into that almost said something I should have said, that stuff that they want to do. Like the young man that threw in Hitler because he felt so proud of himself in that he did in the Oldham County meeting. It's just make sure you're speaking to the board, and because everyone else is, like he said, they're, like Senator Neal said, they're speaking to their fringe, they're speaking to their board, they're speaking so that they can all go to Applebee's afterwards and clap amongst themselves. And the phrase that I like to often say is, they're all a bunch of terabyte tough guys. They're all a bunch of gigabyte gangsters. They're all going to sit in their closed Facebook group and praise themselves. And that's what they're living for. That's all they're living to do. And the thing is, you can't get caught up in, and it's hard, because believe me, like I said, I sat there, arms folded, and I sent my wife, I got 8 screenshots from my Apple Watch that kept going off and saying, your pulse is reading over 120 beats per minute and you're not working out. Are you okay? I got 8 of those. I got notified by my watch and said, "Are you okay?" Because that's where I was, but I wasn't going, that was what was going on internally, but externally I was, and that's not to mention the dozen people that kept coming over and said, "Wow, we really appreciate what you were saying," that were patting me on the back. But that's what they're going to do. They want you to get riled up because no one ever remembers the first person that swings in a fight. They only remember the second person. And that's what you're going to be. You're going to be the second person that verbally or physically swings in a fight. That's all the news is going to remember. And that's what they're trying to do. They're not there to yada, yada. They just want you to, and it's like Michelle Obama said, when they go low, you got to go high. And that's all they want you to do. They just want you to get riled up. But, and I know that you guys have signed up, and it's wonderful what you're doing. And you just got to remember, this is about our kids. If no, they're going to sit up there and toss around CRT left and right. Don't bring it up. Talk about, for all of you that are educators of our children, bless you, because I'm a stay-at-home dad and I have 4 kids, 16, 14, 9, and 7, which means for the past year and a half, I have been I almost said CRT. I have been the NTI guru, which means I have fully understood why people day drink. So let's get that clear. I have understood it, but I have sat here and I have thanked and I have written letters to the schools about how wonderful the teachers have been on purpose, because it's wonderful. So I applaud you teachers for everything you have done. These people that are coming to yell next week, they don't care about the teachers.
No.
So be intent in like Senator Neal, in appraising what these educators are doing and what needs to be done to support them. Don't get caught up in initials and abbreviations and all of this, because that's not important. That's what they want. They want to get caught up in hating people. And they want to make it sound like that what they know is the end all be all. They want to say, don't wear a mask, don't vaccinate, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what it's about. It's about the future of our kids. And just don't let them, because I'm telling you, I sat there and my watch was like, dude, do we need to call 911? Are you okay? But it wasn't. And I wasn't going to let them phase me. And but like I said, I saw on the news and I was like, wait a minute, these were all the same people. And I went and did research, and that's what these group of people do. That's their job. They're just going around. They have no point. They have no purpose other than to raise hell. And so whatever the hot button topic next year, that's what they're going to do. They don't care. They don't care about our kids. And that's scarier than anything.
Well, and
they don't care at all.
This is further down on the agenda, but I want to point this out because it's kind of related. I put the Uncoke My Campus report, on this list because that just came out, or at least I just saw it yesterday or today. And it just really talks about how the Koch brothers have been using this rhetoric to gin up the base for the next push. And these are the same people that think Trump won the election. They think he's going to be reinstated next month. Like this is red meat for the base to try to keep that momentum alive. So I think they think by next year they're going to have their dictator in power and it's not going to matter anymore. They're really going all out. Like this is their last hurrah, in my opinion.
And I sent you that link earlier today that in Texas they just passed that. I'm laughing because I can't.
The Klan is okay.
I can't even finish the sentence that they just passed this, that they cannot teach that the Ku Klux Klan is morally wrong. Now, on one sense, it is frustrating, and I said this to you earlier today, but as a Black man I'll be 49 in October, it's not surprising because I don't ever remember one teacher ever teaching me that the Klan was morally wrong either. Right.
Like it's already not happening, but now it's not even allowed.
But now it's legal. But at the same time, no one ever actually taught it as being morally wrong. Now just now a coward has something to hang behind. But it's just that you just got to remember those people are there just to rile. It's like the little kid when we were all teenagers. You had the one little dude in a group that never got into a fight, but he was that one guy that yelled at everybody and tried to get everybody into a fight. Like that's what that group is there for.
Right. Well,
and I'll shut up now.
JCPS, we've waited since March of last year to have an opportunity to speak at a board meeting. And so at the last work session, when it wasn't even a public speaker time, they showed up and demanded to be heard. And it's like, they never showed up before the pandemic to meet with district leaders or community leaders or parent teacher groups or be part of the solution. And now they are cutting in line. Now that there's an opportunity to be heard, they're just cutting in line. That's classic privilege, really. So, you know, hopefully we can just, my idea is just keep bringing mirrors, because if we just keep showing them who they are, we don't even have to write anything on our posters. Just hold up a mirror, look at you, you know. But
well, the great thing about Texas is it gives away the game. I mean, really? You just said the quiet part out loud.
I mean, you would think that people would be on to all of this by now if it was that, but they just keep going. But I do think that
like,
they're
okay.
I think they're showing their hands at some point. It's
Well,
just
I wondered about that, like, because I really do appreciate what Senator Neal was saying about, like, you know, having parents speak and things like that. But I wonder if that's something parents could, because I'm a teacher and a parent, but my kids unfortunately don't go to school in JCPS. But I wonder if that's something parents could frame their comments around, like, you know, and of course that's Texas, not Kentucky. But then also, like Corey said, like, sorry. You know, oh my gosh, why is this on? Sorry, I've got TV issues. I don't remember my teachers doing that either. And now that I think about it, I've been trying to do better, you know, in the, you know, but I don't know that I've ever, well, no, I think I have talked about the KKK, like obviously not, this is not a good thing. But you know, that's something parents can frame, you know, their comments around. Like, we are moving now into territory where if you're passing laws that say you can't teach the KKK is morally wrong, then are we like saying the KKK is not morally wrong, right? So that parents can frame their comments around, like, then what are we teaching? You know, and of course that's not here, but like if that is what people are, if that's what we're supporting, you know what I'm saying? Like that kind of the thing. And then of course we have the chair of our education committee in the House, you know, and I know it's not a vaccine thing, but she is literally sharing memes comparing vaccinations to, you know,
Jonestown,
poisoning people at Jonestown, right? And that I mean, whatever, however you feel about being vaccinated, I don't think it's the same thing as a mass suicide. So, you know, like, and I don't know. I mean, there's lots of ways you can talk about what people should say, but that's problematic, right? Like all of that, like passing laws saying we can't talk about the KKK being morally wrong. We can't teach, you know, I know they're not saying it can't be taught, but they're removing it from the curriculum. You know, the I Have a Dream speech, which the I Have a Dream speech is this thing that like white people go around shouting about when they haven't read another thing, and they haven't even read the whole I Have a Dream speech. The only part they've read of it is the, you know, judging by the content of their character, the color of their skin. When they haven't, that's the only part of it they've even heard. You know, that not to mention they haven't read anything else or listened to anything else Dr. King has ever even said, you know. They removed the writings of Susan B. Anthony, of, you know, Chavez. Like, so I don't know if those are the kinds of things like even parents can talk about. Like, I don't want my children to not know about, you know, workers' rights and women's rights. And okay, now my dog's even upset. So I'll stop now.
I want to jump in real quick because this is where I get where the strategy that I think comes in, where I don't want to do this tit for tat, because if you can say KKK is not morally wrong, then you need to say Black Panthers is not morally wrong. If you can say this and you can say that, like there's always an opposite when it comes to the history, but you cannot find nothing that talks about. We all know that there is an achievement gap. We all know that there is an opportunity gap between children of color and white children, right? Can we all agree that? So when we're talking about that, we need to talk about the root cause of that, which is what CRT has been doing in colleges, which is studying like the effects of racism. So trauma, ongoing trauma, like microaggressions. And I've been an educator long enough to know that this is what we're doing now. Like I've been an educator for 12 years, and it's always something new every 3 years. And now what it is that they are really researching, because they could never tell us why there was a gap. But now they are really researching the effects of racial trauma and how it gives you PTSD, and how PTSD is the same as ADHD, which is why our kids have been misdiagnosed with ADHD. And so people don't want to close that gap. People don't want to really understand what Black children are going through. And I do not want to disregard this conversation when we have over 100 killings in our city right now, in Jefferson County alone, when we have brothers and sisters and neighbors of gun victims that have been shot down, either in front of them, right next to them, whatever, coming into our classrooms. As teachers, we have to know how to teach that student. And so let me give you an example of what just happened to me last weekend. I was at John Lewis's memorial, and I was with Barbara Boyd. I know y'all know Barbara. Kirk was there, and Greenberg showed up at the end, right? So he went to these two white couples that, and Kirk, we probably knew everybody up there but about two people, right? So there was like this couple, this older couple. They automatically walked up to me and was like, "Are you a teacher?" Well, honey, no, I didn't say that. I mean, yeah, I am, but like, where would you get that information? So he works with Teach Kentucky, and I know all the teachers in here knows about Teach Kentucky. So he is the founder of Teach Kentucky, Rowan and Melanie Claypool. And he was like, "Oh yeah, we recruit teachers." And I said, "Well, what do you do about retaining the teachers?" I said, "Because you're getting teachers that don't live in this county, that don't understand the trauma that these kids are going through, and you are forcing them to sit in the classroom and not really giving them any type of mentorship with a teacher that's been out here in these streets, that knows what these kids are going through. You're not giving them that type of work." So like, there's a lot of places we are failing. We are failing Black and brown kids. And that's where we need to keep lifting this up. I just don't, in my opinion, in my advice, I do not want to go tit for tat with history stories. I want to give them facts of, there is an opportunity gap. There is an achievement gap. What is the root cause? This is why we are researching race-based trauma. And like, we got to keep on talking about that, because what's happening is they don't want to talk about that. And that is why their feelings is getting hurt, because they know they are the reason why we have this gap. It's not us, it's them. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just think that needs to be the focus of the narrative, because then all these white people that are coming in from all these other counties, they can't argue that. They cannot argue that. And they can't get us riled up over like saying something about Thomas Jefferson, or, you know what I'm saying? Like they can't talk about, we have to talk about something they can't talk about. And race-based trauma is something that they cannot talk about.
I agree with you, but I think most of what you're saying is the fact that anybody in my opinion, because I can't state fact, I can't act like I know everything. Most of the people in power have no idea about race-based trauma, because they've never been in a position to know what that trauma looks like. And I grew up in Newburgh. I mean, they don't know, they have no idea what they can read someone's slant on that in Courier Journal. And of course, we know what that slant is gonna read like. We know it's gonna look like, but they don't know what that looks like. And they can quote numbers and they can quote percentages all day long, what they think it looks like. But to me, in my experience, they don't know, they can't know what that trauma looks like because they've never experienced it. And all they, or at best, they have secondhand knowledge, and that's at best. But that's
well,
that's
and then
opinion.
that's what I even said. Another argument was like we always say that teachers have to relate to the students, right? So like, and I'm not saying that all teachers from out of state cannot come teach, but there has to be something in place to help them understand our kids. So that's why I was saying, get them a mentor, pair them up with a mentor teacher that knows how that knows why Johnny is coming in here and acting a fool, right? Like, because I know Johnny's brother, and Johnny's brother was just killed last year, and this is the anniversary of his brother's death. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so many factors that's going on. And then this is what I even told Gabe the other day, when they want to say that their kids' feelings is hurt because they were called oppressors, that's why it's about mental health, right? You can't sweep that under the rug. Like, okay, that's good that they are showing empathy. It's bad that you are trying to throw their feelings under the rug and not let them process that, right? Like, they should be able to process that. We should all be able to talk through that and move forward. That's what transformative justice is. So as soon as they come with that we can counter that narrative with, right, so why would you want to sweep that under the rug? Like, that's us transformative justice. That's us moving forward and admitting that, yes, it was wrong, but just because your little baby cries don't mean you got to wipe their little tears and say, oh, that teacher was bad, I will make sure that they're fired and they will never hurt your feelings again. No, how about Black people, their feelings was hurt when they found out they were slaves? I mean, you know, we all found out one day. We all found out that our ancestors were slaves. Like, we didn't come out the womb just automatically knowing slave mentality. Like, you know what I'm saying? So guess what? I was kind of hurt too when I found that shit out. But like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, when it comes to history, we can go tit for tat all day long. Your feelings, my feelings, my feelings, your feelings, your history, my history, because everybody's history is really the same. Everybody perceives stuff differently, right? But what they can't fight is why we have this educational opportunity gap and how it is caused by race-based trauma, either inside the school or outside the school. We're not going to blame everything on the school and the teachers and everything, because we have 100 killings out here, right? And by the end of the year, we're going to have 200 killings. And that's going to be at least 200 students that are coming into somebody's classroom. And that could be somebody from some Oldham County or Nelson County or something that has no idea, and they're just gonna say that child is bad. I don't know how to deal with them. They're angry all the time, and I just want them out of my classroom. Because I've had those teachers on my team all the time. I'm like, just send them to me. Send them to me every time. Just, you know.
I think some of that conversation has to involve, and you guys, I encountered it at the board meeting, and you guys, because it'll be the same people that y'all encountered that I encountered, is that people have to approach each other not acting like they know everything because they read it from Wikipedia. And I think some of that is just, and I don't know if it came across that way. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know everything, but, and that's part of it, is just like, stuff is broken. Let's sit down and try to fix. But I'm not coming to the table acting like I have all of the answers. Instead, let's sit down and try to fix it together. And I think part of the problem is some people are coming to the table just to flip the table.
Right, because they don't really want to be reasonable. They want to do things that are, if they said them out loud, would not sound very good.
I think people don't, going along with what Tia's saying, I don't think people don't want togetherness. People don't They don't want our children together. They do not want stuff fixed. They do not want stuff fixed. I think in their hearts, they do not want to see stuff working out. And I think that's because it's one thing if you have somebody that's just like, I don't like you, cool, I can at least respect you, we can work with that. But if you're just coming to the table just to be like, no, I'm just trying to set shit on fire and I don't care, that's the kind of people y'all are going to be, that's the kind of people I dealt with. And I think that that's what I'm saying, like, you got to sit there and understand they're coming just to verbally spit on you and verbally come at you, all kinds of crazy, and you just have to sit there and just go, okay, this is about the children. And that's what I kept trying to, when I was sitting there, I was like, these people have they have no backbone. They have no care. They really don't. They just want to be hateful. They no one's trying to figure out the why behind anything. They just want to be evil. That's all they want to do. They don't want to, like Tia's saying, they don't want to sit down and try to figure out the cause behind these things. They don't want to sit down and try to figure out the reasons behind the discrepancies. They just want to sit here and just rah. And I'm not trying to offend anybody. They just want to be rah. Church needs to be back in school. Don't tread on me. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. That's all they want to do, and that's that. And they want to pat each other on the back and go about the business. I want to carry my gun on the state capitol and let me go. That's what they want to do.
So let's talk about Tuesday night before anybody has to drop off. We're going to meet. The meeting is at Central High School, and it starts at 6 p.m. So we're going to meet at Central, maybe around 5-ish, somewhere near the front. Just look for us, people you recognize, and we're going to have a press conference. Greg's not still on, is he? I think Asala and possibly L-Surge and the Alliance and Dear JCPS and whomever else can all have like a joint press conference where we have people prepared to speak to the media. KA, you're amazing at that kind of stuff. Are you willing to maybe even like conduct the press conference?
I'm here. I don't know whether I can get there. I have to make arrangements to get there that early. So that's the only thing. So I'll have to see about that. I can help in some way, but as far as conducting, I don't know whether I can get there that early, but we'll see.
All right. We'll circle back with you and identify who else is able to speak and what groups. And then if nothing else, maybe you can kind of corral everyone and coach them. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So bring signs. To carry the signs inside, they have to be 8.5 by 11, but outside, I think it's important that we have some big signs as well. So bring a little bit of both. If anybody wants to get together beforehand and make signs and brainstorm with each other and share resources and materials, I'm happy to offer up my conference room over in J-Town, maybe this weekend. If folks are interested, just let me know, because I'm still in Delaware right now, but I'm planning on coming home Friday. So if I need to be home by a certain time, Saturday or Sunday, in order to open up the conference room, please let me know. Yvonne, do you still have the sound system? So I think we should.
Yes, they're in the back of my car. Should I drop that off to Perry?
Well, are you coming Tuesday at 5:30 or between 5 and 5:30?
I can.
Are you going to be at the press conference? To stand there with
I will stand there with a sign. You know I do terrible with those things.
No, you don't. What are you talking about?
Anyway.
But I think if we're going to have a press conference, I think using that sound system to just make sure that we look official and can be heard is people will know where something's taking place and will turn and face us, kind of thing. So please
Do
bring
we
that.
park in the parking lot at Central? How does that work?
Tia, do you know parking at Central, what you recommend?
They did last week. Every time I've been there for something, they let you park in the parking lot.
Yeah, you could probably park up front. I know, but if you can't find a spot in the front, like we're like right now, me and Kenyatta, because we're here every day anyway, since our kids play volleyball here. There's a parking lot in the back too, and we can just walk around the front. So if there's if there's too many, which I don't think there would be if y'all get here early before the meeting, like there'll be plenty of places in the front. But if not, all you got to do is turn down, what's that, 11th Street? Yeah, if you just go right past Central, turn down 11th, and then come right by where the pool is, and there's a parking lot in the back.
All right. So try to meet between 5 and 5:30. Let's try to be ready for the press conference by 5:30 in front. So try to get there before 5:30 if you're participating in that. I just started throwing down some awareness building ideas that we can be thinking about beyond July 27th as well. But if we can get some things ready for July 27th to have some handouts. Another idea was a coloring book I've been seeing some Colors of the World crayons, for example. So maybe we could offer like a coloring book with different skin tones as the crayons, just to kind of spark dialogue and an awareness. And of course the kids are going to be interested in it, so it's an opportunity to hand things to kids, and in it can have just information about the work that we're doing, etc., just to tell people where to go to learn more information. Another idea that we've been talking about is geocaching. We've got some really great historical markers that kind of tell some of our local history that people need to be more aware of. And we could put together a map and some info and even bury these little leave behinds with the geocaching so that people can pick up a trinket or some kind of souvenir that reminds them. Maybe it's a handout, just something that shows that they were there. They go to this site and take the literature or whatever. So we can look into that more. I didn't know how to spell Libro, but I wrote it down so I don't forget the thing that Monica mentioned. I know we talked about it on our last call, so we've got it in our notes. Tia talked about race-based trauma and PTSD, and that it's things that teachers can't talk about. So I just made a note of the things that we were talking about there. Mutual aid with animal rights activists is another thing that I've mentioned in some of our chat groups, but I wanted to just keep it on the list so we don't lose it. And I know that Max Mitchell did a post yesterday about releasing balloons as a form of grieving. And I know that that's where we might find some crossover with animal rights activists. If we can get animal rights activists to start showing up at these meetings in force and helping us to have a stronger presence, and in return, we're volunteering at their no-kill shelter or their food pantry. This was just an invitation that I was going to take back to the lady that runs the no-kill shelter where I got my dog, just because I thought it might be an opportunity for us to bring some volunteers to them. They bring some volunteers to us. We find that commonality, that intersectionality, because animal rights activists and civil human rights activists often are the same people. Like there's a lot of overlap. Just being able to have those conversations and how can we support each other and bring more people to the work was the concept there. So if that interests anyone, and maybe we could be willing to say, yes, we'll send 5 volunteers just to show that we are, willing to bring some resources and then ask for some resources just to do the heavy lift when it's time to do the heavy lifting. So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. I mentioned the Uncoke My Campus report that just talks about the history of the Koch brothers and how the CRT is just one more of their efforts to destroy public education and privatize and steal money from our communities. We need to get a stronger social media presence. I'm going to skip that though for a second because I want to talk about we have a letter of support that we've been working on that we're going to be circulating to organizations and individuals to ask for signatures. I put a form out on the peoplesagenda.net to capture those signatures. Thank you, Corey. I see you need to jump off. Thank you for joining us. So just kind of getting all the content organized so that it flows. When people come to the website and fill out the form, they can also get more information, like just trying to build that. And it'd be good to have a social media presence around that as well with a campaign theme or two. So we talked about protesting in legislators' districts as well. Like before the session starts, the people who sponsored the bills need to be made uncomfortable, need to have their constituents looking, going, why are people protesting my House rep or my senator? Mostly House reps, I think, because both those bills were in the House. So these are things that we need to put on our calendar for the future as we head into the fall. And then the campaign ideas that we've been talking about, and this could just be like a social media page or something. We could have a Let Teachers Teach kind of as a counter response to let them learn, because teachers need to be able to teach the truth. We need to untie their hands. We need to support our teachers. You know, that needs to be the message with one of our accounts, perhaps. Another one, and we talked about this when Senator Neal was on the call, and just with what kids are smart, and kids see that they're being lied to. They're being prevented from being taught the truth. And surely it's just a matter of time before that backfires and the kids lead a revolution against what's happening. But then another campaign that we talked about is All History Matters. And I've got a sample of the logo on the right-hand side of the screen. The reason we are talking about using this campaign idea is because you know, when the response was All Lives Matter, it was in response to Black Lives Matter, and it was hurtful and unnecessary. And what we've noticed is when we say we want history taught, we want Black history taught, they're not saying all history matters, because they know that all history isn't being taught. And so it kind of shuts the conversation down right away. So this is one of the approaches that we were talking about using. And in fact, carrying it into the Tuesday board meeting, one of the ideas is to even use language in your speech that is nuanced enough to where the people that aren't educated can't quite tell if you're agreeing with them or not. Kind of what we saw with Mr. Queen, and how the Oldham County crowd was cheering him because they didn't understand it. We all knew what he meant. And, you know, so we could even get a nuanced message in our speeches on Tuesday night that could confuse enough people to where they're cheering us on as well. And, you know, eventually we end up making it so that their argument is moot, which of course we know that their leaders are not going to settle for that, and they'll figure out another way. But let's keep making them have to show their hands. Let's keep peeling that onion until they have to play the cards that flat out say, we are racist, white supremacists, segregationists, you know, like make them say it. So those are some of the campaign themes that we've been talking about. I'm going to stop for a second. I can't tell if there's anything below that. But if you guys want to just comment on any of that, I know I ran through it pretty quick, but I don't want to keep everybody here forever. So I just want to throw it all out there and see what you guys want to talk about, because we can keep working on this over the next few weeks and stuff too. Any thoughts or feedback? All right, does anyone hate any of the ideas that have been thrown out there? What don't you like?
There's one thing I think that we should add at this point, just to put the lie to them, and just say that, you know, just as Senator Neal says, we don't want to dumb down history. And it's funny how parents watched a year's worth of lessons online, and somehow none of this was a problem. Looks to me like people who don't know what they're talking about are trying to cause issues when we have real problems.
That sounds like a really good talking point for your speech Tuesday night, perhaps.
Oh, I'm gonna have to talk now. I should have kept my mouth shut. I
agree
say
with-
that a lot.
I agree with you. I think that's a great point.
No, but this was never an issue. This wasn't an issue anywhere in America. But it's ubiquitous. Funny how that is.
Any other thoughts? KA? I'm gonna turn my air back on because it's getting hot in here. Turned it down so it wasn't so noisy. Well, you guys figure out if you have anything else you want to say. Hey, Kenyatta, happy belated birthday.
Thanks, Boo. I like to keep birthdays low key. You never know which way they're gonna go. So it's always positive if I keep it, if I control it. You know what I mean?
I do know you.
Try not to have too much expectation from anything or anybody. So it's like, you know, my Facebook party is normally enough.
All right, anyone else? Do we want to have a poster making party before Tuesday night? Would anybody show up?
I have so much stuff going on right now. I am a glorified Uber driver. I'm spending my time in the car and trying to get PDs done between now and then, between there and next week, so I don't have to go sit in actual meetings next week.
All right, I'll try to make some extra signs just so if anybody doesn't have a chance to make some, we'll have some extras. If you have thoughts on what they should say, send them my way or Yvonne's way. I think Yvonne's keeping the list also. Do you have any signs left over from Frankfurt, Yvonne? Did
I'm
you
gonna
guys-
have Laura redo them. She did a kind of crappy job on them.
Okay,
She was
All
in a
right.
big hurry. Kind of crap.
all right. Well, let me know if you need any support or resources or whatever. And then otherwise, we'll see everybody at Central at 5 o'clock. And if we need to start a little email thread or Google Doc or whatever to keep everybody's topics so we get a better sense of the cohesiveness, we can certainly do that. And there went Tia and Kenyatta. All right, bye, everybody. Thank you.